Space Engineers is a sandbox creation game where you can build and fly your very own spaceships. You're given a selection of different equipment blocks, like thrusters, power plants, weapons and drills. Then you can put them together and build whatever you want, from fighters, mining and construction vehicles, to huge motherships, and even space stations. The game comes with two modes, Creative and Survival. With Creative you can build whatever you like with unlimited resources. It's also good to practice on to make sure your vehicles actually work. I'll show you what I did to give you some idea of what you can make and how I progressed. After watching the basic tutorial on how to use the controls, it only took a few hours to create my very first spaceship. I think it's not bad for my first attempt. I added the fighters on deck after. You can walk around on the larger ships and sit in a captain's chair to fly them. The game uses a volumetric based physics engine where objects have their own mass, velocity, and everything can be destroyed or disassembled. So after you've built something large like this, you can crash it into something else and enjoy the destruction. That was quite satisfying. It's easy to save a copy of a file so you can just load the ship back in undamaged. Next I had a go at building mining ships that could drill into the side of asteroids. As you create something you can see what works and what doesn't. Then you try to evolve and improve your ideas, like adding side drills to give your ship enough clearance, then making your vehicle bigger so you can mine more ore. Next I had a go at creating a cutting arm. Then I added the arm onto a ship. However, it swayed around when I was moving and made it difficult to fly. So I created a ship with a horizontal cutting arm and that made it easier to move around. Then finally a dual cutter that mines two trenches at once. Next I tested a spinning disc. The mechanics worked but it only had a small drill head so it couldn't mine very deep. So on version 2 I covered it with drills. It was more effective but some of the components got damaged. So I did a third version. Yes, the colour scheme is a bit Austin Powers. It was good at drilling, but it was a bit wobbly to fly. Then I tried a surface scraper. You lock onto the asteroid, lower the drill arm, then the ship rotates, scraping the drills along the surface of the asteroid and mining it that way. You can also create huge deep core drills. This gravity version was a bit wobbly and didn't really work. Because you have unlimited resources on the sandbox mode, you can build gigantic vessels as big as you want. So I built this monster drill to dissect large asteroids. Space Engineers is fully multiplayer, so you can go into your friend's game to help them build, or they can come into yours. You can also pick a scenario where you start on separate platforms, then build ships to fight each other in your very own arms race. PvP is the only way to do combat at the moment, as there is no AI enemy to fight against, but hopefully they'll add that in the future. I'll just quickly construct a vehicle to give you some idea of what it's like. On the bottom right you can pick from a small ship, a large ship or a station. I've selected a small ship as I'm going to build a fighter. I'll add where I want a cockpit. The really good thing about this game is that it's got a symmetry option. So you only have to create one side of a spaceship and then it copies what you're doing onto the other. The symmetry works on all three axes, left and right, up and down, and front and back. Okay, now I'll add the wings. I'll just create a basic shape I want. Fill in the framework. Add the thrusters, power units and gyroscope. Then give it a quick test and see how it handles. You have to have thrusters in every direction, otherwise you'll just drift off into space. Then, if you're happy with how it flies, you can fill in the bodywork. I've added bigger ear thrusters to make it go faster. The body's complete, now I'm just going to add an extra nose gun. Okay, now it's ready for weapons testing. Then the last thing to do is decide what colour to paint your ship. I'm going to go for white and blue. You can change your block to whatever colour you want and then use it as a paintbrush. I'm just finishing off. And there I have a spaceship I've completely built myself. It looks alright for something I did quickly, but if you spend more time on it you can make yours look better. I'm now going to show you the other main mode, which is survival. There are a number of scenarios to pick from, but the one I'm going to choose is Lone Survivor. This is also available in multiplayer. You can add mods if you want, but I don't use any. Then in advanced you can select what conditions you want in your world. I'm going to add more asteroids. You start off on a platform with the very basics you need to survive. You have a gravity generator, medical bay to replenish your life support, a reactor that powers everything. You need to make sure it's topped up with a constant supply of uranium, otherwise you'll run out of power, everything will stop working and you'll die. You put the ore you mined into the refinery to extract the materials, then the assembler at the bottom converts those materials into components you need to build your equipment. You're only given a hand drill to begin with and you have to mine all your ore with this. It doesn't take long before your inventory's full, then you've got to take the ore back to get refined. You drop your ore into the refinery and it starts extracting all the materials. And as it's doing that, you go back and get some more. When you've built enough components, you can think about expanding your base. I'm adding a cargo container so I can put all my items into it. Then my next priority will start building my mining ship. You place a framework down, then you need to mine all the ore to build the components. It takes a really long time to put all the parts together, so it's best to build something small to begin with. It's also a good idea to test your vehicle construction in the sandbox mode beforehand to make sure it works. After a lot of work, you'll have something that resembles a mining ship. Then when you've finished its essential components, you can take it out and start mining with it. From then on, everything gets a lot easier and you can mine a huge amount of ore. And when you fill up, you just fly back to base, then unload your ore into the refinery. And that's the basics of the survival mode. So, is Space Engineers worth buying? Yes it is. As a building game it's one of the best ones out there, but it needs an enemy AI added to make it more of a complete game. So I'm going to give it a 7.5. If you love creation games, this one's definitely for you. The developers add into it all the time, so it's just going to get better and better.